Hey guys, how you doing? It's about 11:50. I was trying to get my life. I'm like, ever feel like you're just trying to get your life? So I'm trying to get my life so I can make sure that I wasn't confusing anybody. And it's almost funny because I'm thinking I'm out here learning some new stuff about what we're going to talk about today, which is debt consolidation and refinancing again, because we talked about some questions recently about what you should ask when you call your refinancing companies. And so when I'm, doing my research and looking at what the difference is between these, I'm thinking, now isn't this funny? I didn't even know all the things that I found out, that I researched. And I mean, really the point is that I didn't know everything, but I was still able to pay off my debt. So I was still able to pay off six figures. And I actually did both of these things. I actually consolidated my debt and I refinanced. So, and I'm like, I didn't even know all of this stuff. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. I'm going to make it as clear as I possibly can. Clear as mud, they say, right? So first, we're going to start talking about the refinancing portion. Okay, we went over some questions to ask, things like that, but I'm going to go over just some basic refinancing foundation. Okay, so when you are refinancing your student loans, you're looking to reduce your interest rate. That's one of your biggest goals. You want to reduce the interest rate so you pay less interest over the life of the loan. Okay, and from what I'm aware of, you can only refinance with a private lender. Okay, so you can't go through debt consolidation or the other Navient and all these other people. They don't refinance student loans. Okay, and a lot of them I don't even think consolidate the student loans. For a while there, they were telling me, oh, you can't consolidate anymore. This doesn't exist. I mean, maybe somebody can clarify that for me because I'm not sure, but that was what they told me a long time ago. Okay, so you can do the refinancing through the private lenders. Okay, and when you refinance to these new companies, so goodness, there's so many. Earnest, SoFi, Laurel Road, which used to be called Darien Rowayton Bank. There's so many options. Common Bond. So, but when you refinance, you can refinance both your federal and your private student loans. Okay. So that's something to keep in mind, both federal and private. So don't think that if, oh, I have private loans, that means I can't do it. Nope. You can do it with your private or federal student loans. Okay. So we're talking about direct loans, Stafford loans, plus loans, and the likelihood is that you want to get to just one payment, which sometimes that's for you and sometimes it's not. And so we're going to really talk about that because maybe you don't need to refinance all of your loans because maybe some of them are already at a low interest rate. Okay, so it's important to remember. So, but that's for a lot of people. They're looking to refinance because they only want to have that one payment, that one bill due every month. Okay. And then you can also change the length of your repayment based on your budget, which is really important because maybe you're looking to only pay $300 a month. So they'll really help you with adjusting the length. Whether you want to do 15 years or 30 years, because of course, though, the longer that term is, the less you'll pay per month, right? But then now you've increased the amount of interest you'll pay over the life of the loan, right? And which means the interest cost is going to be a lot higher and it's going to take you a lot longer to pay it off if you're only paying $300 a month. So really key to remember, okay? And then you can of course choose a variable or a fixed rate. And remember I chose a variable rate. Don't do that, okay? But you have an option to choose one of these, right? And they'll give you both options when you apply. They'll give you, okay, at 15-year fixed, it's this. At 15-year variable, this is the interest rate, okay? And then when you refinance your federal loans and your private loans, it's going into a whole new private loan. Okay, so they're looking at your previous loans and now they're basically saying, okay, this is your new loan rate now. Okay, but then remember, you're not going to be eligible for any of those government income-based repayment programs, public loan service programs. All of those you will not be eligible for in the forbearance. You will lose those benefits when you go to refinancing. Remember that? And then when you refinance, you're able to leave some of those loans a loan. So if you're happy with the rate of 2.2% or 2.25, whatever, leave the loan. You don't have to refinance it. You are not obligated to. But guess what? When you call, all they do is pressure you, unfortunately. They don't tell you the details. They just say, you need to do this. And in fact, when I tried well, I'll tell that story later. Anyways, so if you're happy with the rate, be okay with leaving out that loan and just consolidate and refinancing the other ones, okay? And then so you'll have those two options: refinance all your student loans or refinance just some of them, okay? And then when you're refinancing, you're actually not only consolidating your loans, but you're getting that new loan with a reduced rate, which is what we've already talked about, okay? And so that's the basics, the financial basics of refinancing. Okay. So now debt consolidation, I was really trying to see, I'm like, okay, so what's the same between these two things and what are the differences? So after we talk about these, after I do not confuse you guys, we're going to hopefully get you guys to take away the meat and potatoes of this whole darn thing. Okay. So now debt consolidation. So when I'm researching debt consolidation, it's funny that like I said, I did something that I really didn't have all the information to actually do. When I called when I was young and did this debt consolidation, the guy on the phone pressured me. I was like 24 years old and I felt pressured. He was like, you need to consolidate or you need to do, and he just kept saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I was just like, what is going on? And I mean, you really have to do your research because I felt pressured and I just did it. I didn't ask my parents. I didn't ask anybody. I just did it. So I consolidated probably like 15 loans into one, which, may or may not have been a good thing for me because guess what? Some of those interest rates were lower, some were higher. So we're going to get into a little bit of that now, okay? And so when you do debt consolidation through the government, you can only consolidate federal loans only. Private loans, you can't do that through the federal government. Private loans, you can refinance, but you cannot do, at least from my understanding, the government will not do your private loans for you, okay? They will not consolidate those for you. Like direct consolidation, which I'm pretty sure, it's been so long, but that's who I used to consolidate initially, okay? And then when you do it through a private lender, you're able to go from several, I'm sorry, I'm getting turned around. Actually, okay, when you do it in the government, you can take several payments into, so several loans and go to just one payment, okay? So one loan. So now you have just one bill coming rather than 15 bills or 15 debts coming, okay? And then the paying is easier. But then guess what? When you consolidate, it's different from refinancing because when you consolidate, it's a weighted average, okay? So it's a weighted average of your current rates. And I'm going to do my best to explain this to you guys, okay? And then just a side note with the private lenders where you can use both federal, you can refinance the federal and the private loans. So if you go to a private lender and you decide to consolidate, they do not use a weighted average. Okay, you actually get a new loan and they're looking at how you handle debt and other financial information. So I hope that makes sense. So if you use the government, they're using a weighted average of your interest rate. So it's a weighted average of your interest rate of your previous loans. Okay, but if you're talking about private lenders, and you decide to consolidate, then they're talking about there's no weighted average of your interest rate, okay? They're looking at how you handle debt and the actual, your other financial information, okay? And then they're looking to reduce that rate for you, okay? So we're gonna take a quick look at what the weighted average is. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. When I look at interest rates, I'm kind of like, average, I add up 6 and 5, which is 11. So 6% and 5%, which is 11%, and divided by 2, that's 5.5%. I'm like, that's easier. But anyways, when you consolidate, they want you to do a weighted average. And I tried to have this written out so it would be a little easier. Okay, so I'm all diagonal and stuff. So okay, so let's say you have two loans. One's 10,000, one's 5,000, and you have the $10,000 loan at 6%. and a $5,000 loan at 5%. Okay? So these are your two loans, right? It's a total of $15,000. Feel free to correct my math. It's too early for me to do math. I work the evening shifts, okay? So now the calculation. So 10,000 out of the total balance, because that's what the weighted average is. It includes your principal balance, okay? So 10,000 out of $15,000, right? So 10,000 out of 15,000 is 2/3 of the loan. Makes sense, right? Easy numbers. And then the $5,000 out of $15,000 is 1/3 of the loan, right? 5,000 out of 15,000, okay? And now over here is what we do is that we take our ratio multiplied by our interest rate to help get our weighted average, okay? So for 10,000, we have 2/3 times 6% equals 4%, okay? And then for the $5,000, it's 1/3 times 5% interest rate equals 1.6%. So when you add these together, your new weighted average when you consolidate your student loans is 5.67%. Okay? 5.67%. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys. My 5.5% from how you average things when you're young in school, 6 plus 5 is 11. 11 divided by 2 is 5.5. It's really not that much different. And honestly, I'm like, that little point whatever percent that's left, if you're paying more than your minimum payment, you're not going to be worried about that point whatever percent. I'm just being honest with you guys, okay? But that's what the weighted average is when you're looking at a consolidated loan through the government, so through debt consolidation or something like that, okay? And then remember, once again, if you choose a private lender and choose to consolidate, they will not be using a weighted average. They're going to help find you a lower interest rate loan, okay? So now, moving on from that. That was so fun. I know you guys can hardly contain yourselves, okay? But then remember that when you're consolidating, just like if you're refinancing, if you're happy with some rates, good. Stick with that 2.25% rate. If you have a low rate like that, because maybe you had loans from like a long time ago, then keep that, okay? Because I had loans close to 9%. I'm just saying, okay? So remember, you can use some, you can say, okay, I want to consolidate these, and the other three are like, nope, I want to leave these. You have an option to do that. And guess what? They don't tell you that when you call. I mean, maybe they would. I'll say that they don't offer the information, okay? But if you knew the questions to ask, then maybe they could answer. So just keep that in mind, okay? I was young. I didn't even realize I could ask. I didn't realize I could even do that. So I'm telling you guys, you don't have to make the same mistake, okay? All right. And then remember, you can actually refinance even if you consolidated. And I mean, I'm the poster child for this, right? So I consolidated my loans when I was about 24, and then I refinanced my student loans at about 31, 32. Okay, so I waited a long time. But then back then, from my understanding, refinancing wasn't available. So you can consolidate and then you can refinance as well. But then remember, when you refinance, it's really like the same bubble. So when you end up refinancing, you technically are consolidating. So just a thought. All right, so you've seen my fun little diagram thingy. So I'm going to attempt to tell you guys, okay, so what's the same? Because I mean, it's a lot of here and there about the whole thing, right? Debt consolidation and refinancing. So what's the same between the two? Okay, so you can do, like we just talked about, you can refinance or consolidate all your student loans, or you can leave some as is. So keep that in mind. If the interest rate is low, leave it alone. Stay happy with it, okay? And then if you're looking to have one payment, right? You can have one payment with both of these, with refinancing or consolidating. So if your interest rates are all close to 5% and you're fine with that and you're happy with that, you can get one payment. They will gladly give you consolidate and refinance or whatever into one payment. That is an option. But remember, you're possibly giving up a little bit if some of those interest rates are lower. And it's okay to pay them off one by one. You pay off those three that are low interest rates, and then you move to the lump sum that you consolidated, okay? And then the point is too is to be able to, well, if you choose to, but you have the option to lower your monthly payment. Because some are looking for that because it's sometimes based on your budget. It's based on your budget and your income that's coming in. But then remember, like we said, it lengthens the payment term. So you're going to pay more interest over the life of the loan, right? The higher interest costs, more interest over the life of the loan. And it's going to take you longer to pay off the student loan if you've lowered your monthly payment. But it is an option. So you can also, shorten the length of the term of the loan as well. So you can make it be 10 years if you want, although it may mean, 10 years paying over $1,000 a month, right? Or you can make it 30 years. Whew, but 30 years is a long time, right? Okay, and now if we're looking at the differences between consolidating and refinancing, okay? We're gonna make this as easy as I can, okay? So consolidate. Remember, it's based on weighted average, especially if you do it with the government, okay? It's based on the weighted average interest rate of all of your previous loans, okay? And remember, that's what we looked at here, the weighted average, which is pretty similar to just the average, okay? Real talk. But then refinancing, excuse me, they're looking to reduce your interest rate. So now you have a new fancy, sparkly new loan with a refinancing company, so with a private lender, okay? And then when you consolidate, you keep your income-based programs. So, after I consolidated, excuse me, I was on an income-based program. So if I went part-time at the hospital or I was full-time, I had some leniency with that. So that is with consolidation, okay? But with refinancing, you lose your government-based programs. That is really important for you guys to remember, okay? So your public service loan forgiveness, it's gone. Forbearance, it's gone. Income-based repayment program and refinancing, it's gone. And it kind of gave me some pause, but in the same sense, I was like, I've had the loans long enough, and it was time to pay them off. So I was okay with that. I won't say it didn't give me the Jones now, but I tried to manage to be okay with that, okay? And then now when you consolidate also, remember, consolidation is putting things together, right? So you're combining multiple loans into one loan, right? So whether it's 5 to 1 or 15 loans to 1, you're consolidating, right? But then with refinancing, you're actually replacing the loan. You're replacing a loan or multiple loans with a brand new fancy sparkly loan, okay? Because remember, what did we say? You want to decrease the lifetime interest costs and the monthly payments if you can, and then you have a better repayment terms, basically, okay? And then once again, when we talked about consolidating also, the government, they will consolidate your federal loans only. They will not do your private loans. You will have to go to a private lender so they can consolidate your federal and your private loans, okay? And when you're refinancing, they will do your federal and your private loans. Before, right, it wasn't really heard of. So to be able to refinance both is a good thing. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned this, but my parents had a Parent Plus loan. And actually these refinancing companies, they will allow you to refinance, so combine, so basically take back, which your parents will love, take back the loans from your parents and put them in your own name and refinance them all under one hat, which I didn't really know, at least initially. And then when I started researching, I'm like, oh. And then when I knew to ask the question, I was like, oh, so I can take my parents back. So they had over 10,000 that was still in their name. And I was like, hey, yo, I've been sucking at paying you guys back for this. So give me the rest of this back. And I guess telling my truth in front of the world. Good times. But anyway, so I took that like 13,000 back and added it to my $105,000 that I already had. So it's kind of a lot of money, but you can take it back. So if you can take it back, you're willing to take it back, your parents would love that. and take it back because it's yours and it was mine, so I took it back. I don't know. Are there any questions? What's up, Christina? Oh, she says, this is why I haven't consolidated. I didn't know I could only consolidate some and not all. You can consolidate them all, if I'm understanding your question correctly. But yes, you can decide to consolidate everything, because I consolidated all like 15 of my loans, but you can decide to only consolidate some of them. You have that choice. I know I had some interest rates that were lower that I could have left out, but I didn't. I didn't realize that I could. So very important to remember. So there's no other questions. I'm gonna go take my dog for a walk. Um, Hopefully the meat and potatoes of this was helpful. I know it was kind of like, you're like, okay, well, what's the same between consolidating and refinancing? And then what's the main things I need to remember? So I hopefully explained it well enough today that you're like, okay, so consolidating is this, refinancing is this, and okay, do I want to do this one or neither? Because you have to decide what's best for you. Okay? So I wish you guys a very happy Wednesday. Cheerio. Bye. See you guys next week.